Hello and welcome back to the channel. This episode is a little bit different. It's coming at you from my comfy back seat in my truck. Today we're going to be talking about logs. Now, I'm not going to be teaching you everything about how to do your logs and the different hours and all that. You should have a basic understanding of that part of the logging. What I want to talk to you about is a way that I screwed myself out of time. I didn't understand, or nobody told me, or whatever, but I just didn't put two and two together. So I didn't understand how the 14-hour on duty and the 70-hour cycle interacted together. I thought that the 14-hour just kept ticking, and so did the 70, but that's not the case. So I'm gonna do some fancy drawing here on my iPad and try to explain what was going on. So let's go. So basically we have four things that we have to worry about, right? We have our off-duty, we have our driving, we have our on-duty, and then we have our cycle. That's the 70 hours. For the driving, we have our 11 hours. On duty, we have 14. And for our cycle, we have our 70 hours. So this is how I screwed myself out of time. Okay, follow along. I'll try to explain this the best that I can. When you go on duty, once you hit on duty, nothing stops that clock. You've got 14 hours from when you go on duty to get your 11 hours of drive time in. So let's say you're off duty. You're up here and you're off duty. So now drop down to the on duty part and you do, and I'm going to keep these numbers round to make it easier to understand. So you wouldn't do a half hour pre-trip, you do a 15-minute pre-trip, but I'm going to say a half hour. So let's say you go on duty and you do a half hour pre-trip. That 14 hours starts right here. It starts and it doesn't stop. Your 14 hours is going to count down for the entire day. So now you're going to switch from your 30-minute pre-trip, and now you're going to go up to driving. And you're going to drive for, let's say, 4.5 hours. We'll make that 4.5 hours. And we're here at 0.5 for our on-duty time. Now what happens is the 70 hours starts counting down as soon as you go on duty, and it just keeps counting down for that whole time. So when you get to this point, you are -5 hours from your 70. Get what I'm saying so far? Where I screwed myself up is here at this on-duty part. The on-duty part, the 14 hours you can't stop. So when I got to the point where I was over here and I decided that I needed fuel, so I went to on duty and I got fuel, and maybe it took me a half hour. So it took me a half hour to fuel, and then I went into the Flying J or whatever, and I got coffee, I went to the bathroom, I looked at some of the phone holders, whatever, did all that stuff. I just stayed on duty because it didn't matter. The 14-hour clock over here won't stop. It just keeps counting down. So I would just stay on duty there, and I might be in there for another half hour. Or maybe if I'm at the Joplin 44 or the Iowa 80 or Little America, I might be in there for an hour or hour and a half. So let's say I'm in there for an hour and a half. So I go over here, hour and a half, and then I go back up to driving, and then I do 2 hours of driving. So this is 1.5, and this is 2 hours of driving. So what happened here is this 70 kept counting down all the way over to here. Now let's say at this point I went off duty. So now I have lost another 4 hours over here of my 70. So now I'm 9 hours short, or 9 hours down on my 70. Because the 70 keeps going as long as you are on duty. Because the 14 hours doesn't stop. You've counted down, same thing, 9 hours on your 14. So you've taken 9 hours off of your 14 on duty. So now let's look at what you should do. When you get done fueling, after your half hour right here, you should go off duty to go into the store. And then if you're 2 hours, this is 2 hours in the store, your on duty, your 70-hour clock over here stops right here. Now your 14-hour is going to keep going. Nothing stops it. Doesn't matter what happens. But that 70 hours does. I didn't know that. I thought the 70 and the 14 just kept going. So even if you took 5 hours off of here, let's say we did 5 hours off instead of 2, your 70 down here, that one still stops at this point here. Your 14-hour will still keep going, but your 70 will stop. So when you go back on duty over here after your 5 hours, and then you continue on duty, your 70-hour clock doesn't start back up until over here, and then it will run. So these 5 hours in here you saved on your 70-hour clock. Say you took a long nap or whatever. But your 14 hours still got ate up by 5 hours in here, your 14-hour day. So, COVID? No, choked on coffee. Oh, you're back. So I don't know how clear that was on there, but the gist is you need to go off duty when you are doing anything but driving or fueling, or your pre-trip and post-trip. But that's it. I was leaving myself on duty when I went into the gas station to go to the bathroom or whatever I wanted to do. And if I was at the Iowa 80 or the Joplin 44 or any of those big ones, then I just wandered around going, ooh, look at the lights and things like that. One day I was in, I think it was the Joplin 44. I was in there for about 2.5 hours. I needed to buy mud flaps and some other stuff, so I was going through and measuring and all that. So anyway, I wasted a lot of time in there. Now, I don't know how much that cost me over the last 6 months, because I've been doing that for like 6 or 7 months and not going off duty when I wasn't driving or fueling. And it finally caught up with me. So if you look at the screenshot that I should put up here. Okay, so I lied. I'm gonna give it to you like this. So we're going to divide this in half so that you can see that on the left side over here is when I got home. And on the right side over here is a little bit later. So when I got home, I went off duty. And my drive time that I had left was 5 hours and 45 minutes. My shift time was 7 hours and 35 minutes. Roughly 5 hours later, my shift was down to 2 hours and 30 minutes. But you can see that the cycle didn't change. Well, I kind of covered up the word cycle, but you get the gist. Right here, it says 63:45, and over here, it's still 63:45. So my shift here dropped, ran out. Like I said, the 14-hour shift, you can't stop. Once you go on duty for anything, your 14 hours starts counting. But if you go off duty, the 70 hours stops. So go off duty. I probably confused the crap out of you. I'm really sorry. I think I confused the crap out of myself. So if you don't get it, then give me a phone call and I'll try to explain it better if you really don't understand it. The bottom line is, though, go off duty anytime that you're not driving or fueling or doing a pre or post. So I have dinner cooking in my lunchy boxy thing. What do I have tonight? I have chicken carbonara and garlic bread that my wonderful wife made for me and sent it in those little trays. Go back and look at my tips video and you'll see what they look like. But I got that cooking and I'm hungry. So as always, have safe travels and I hope to see you on the road.